Yes, hello everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to our Wednesday live session here on social media and on YouTube. We're live on Facebook, we're live on Instagram, and we're live on YouTube. And you are all welcome. Happy to have you here all today. Happy to be here again today. This is the first week of June 2026. How time flies. We're already halfway, almost halfway gone in the in the year of 2026. Thank you so much for being here on time. I can see Discovering Taria, Madam Fejiro, Madam Blessing have been here on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here on time, and thank you for waiting. We'll get right into what we'll have for you today. I think there's still a few people who have joined us also. Um, a few people who have joined us from Facebook as well. And you are all welcome. So today we're going to be talking. Yes, I see Mr. Joseph as well. Thank you so much. And I see Mrs. Anne. Welcome and welcome. Happy to see you all here today. Madam Uzosike, welcome. Madam Uchenna Gweze, welcome. Happy to have you all here today. So today is a very interesting, very interesting topic. You know, it's something that we've always been debating about. People are always talking about this. Is it better to own your house or rent it? Please tell more people to come in. You know, for those in the Money Click program, you know that this month of June is the month that we talk about real estate. So everything, even our Money Click courses. Remember, we're going to bring in a real estate expert to take our Money Click sessions in this month. All the Money Click sessions in this month will be taken by a real estate expert here in Abuja. So I hope you're ready for it. And every other thing that we're going to be talking about this month is all going to be about properties and real estate. I see Mrs. Emily. Welcome. Glad to have you here. So let me put this question to you. Even before we start, we'll dive into what we're doing today. Let me ask you, is it better to own your house or rent it? Let me know what your view is in the comment section. Is it better to own your house or rent it? Welcome, Mr. Chris. Is it better to own your house or rent it? Let's see. You can still add why if you tell us. You can still tell us why you think it's better for you to rent or better for you to own. It depends. Okay. All right. All right. Waiting for more comments. I see more people have joined us on Instagram. Thank you, Madam Tony George. Happy to see you. So the question I'm asking now is it better to own your house or rent it? Is it better to own your house or rent it, depending on where you live? Okay. It's um it's better to own and not remove. It's better to own and not remove the cost of rentage. Okay. Is it only one house? We're talking about the house you live in now, but of course you can own more than one. But we're talking about the one you have to live in. Is it better to own the house you live in or rent? Um, okay, yes, I see. Own the property, but pay off the mortgage early. Okay. Mrs. Uzosike just added something to put more context. It's better to own and remove the cost of rentage. Oh, now I understand. Okay, better to remove the cost of rentage. Okay, let's before now to this time, it is better to own a house, Mr. Joseph. Okay. Um, but I'm also saying, own your house in Nigeria because we don't really do a lot of mortgage. Okay. Definitely better to own the house you live in. Um, okay. Mrs. Tara says, I'm looking forward to hear your opinion because the conversation I'm having with myself, I'm still building capital to earn seeds from. All right. Okay. Mrs. Emily says, if you're building, I think you can strategically rent while saving to own a home and build outright. So if you can afford it, buy or own the home. Okay, thank you. It's better to own for me. Okay, thank you. That's from Mrs. Anne. Madam Fejiro Ayo says it is better to own your own house. Okay, I like the diverse opinions. Yes, I'm enjoying it. It's better to own your own home. Yes, so a lot of people stand for owning their own homes. Okay, when Teresa, I believe my unique situation is best to rent because why stock money in a building when some capital can be giving me income? All right, very interesting points taken. Let me go to Instagram and read from Instagram what people are saying. Um, uh, Glue Gun Jimmy says it is better to own. It reduces consistent payment monthly or yearly. Madam Tony just says it's good to own yours. Madam Tony just also adds that it's her opinion because of where um, at where she is right now. Mind.wisdom.77 says it. I think it's better to own. Okay, all right. Let me see if there's more. Well, that was always the case. Mortgage while they like bicycle. Okay, all right. Okay, quite interesting things, I will say. And I'm already enjoying the conversation. Honestly, I am. But let's get into it proper. Like I said, this question has sparked a lot of debates for a long time. People are always debating about this. And a lot of people, most times, we assume the answer is simple, right? Some people, it's as simple as owning is better. And for some people, the answer is as simple as saying, no, renting is better, gives you more freedom, to walk around with your money. But the truth is, both have advantages and disadvantages, right? And that's what we're going to be looking at today, the advantages and the disadvantages for each of them, for both. Because the real issue is which option helps you build wealth while maintaining financial stability. That's the real issue. Which option helps you build wealth while maintaining financial stability? Which of the options does that for you? All right. Okay. So because it's important to look at it that way because a home is not just a financial decision. A home is also a lifestyle decision, right? So let's start. Let's make a case for home ownership. We're going to make a case for rental, right? So let's start with home ownership. So owning your home provides you with a lot of benefits, and we'll take them one at a time. Number one benefit you get from owning your home is stability. Stability. You gain stability, especially not just stability for your finances, stability for your home. For your home. Welcome, Madam Linda. Especially stability from your home, for your home. So because nobody can suddenly decide that they want to renew rent for you, right? Nobody will decide that they want to renew your tenancy. Nobody can increase your rent every few years. I remember I lived in one particular house at some point. From the first year to the fifth year, they increased rent every single year, right? We can say, oh, that's wrong and all that, but the thing about, and because I wanted stability at that point, so I just had to stay because I wasn't in the mood to start dragging or do all that, right? Okay, so Madam Leader says owning the home. Thank you very much, Madam Leader, for your intake, even though you just joined us. Thank you. Right? So nobody can ask you, in fact, you know what? You need to move. I want to sell the property. So you're stable. You have that stability. Right? And for many families, especially those with children, stability is valuable. Stability is valuable. If you have children, stability becomes valuable to you. Right? So you have stability. It gives you stability when you own your own home. Nobody's coming to push you around. Nobody's coming to spoil your budget just because they want to increase rent. And that will take us to number two advantage, which is protection against rising housing costs. And it has become a challenge today in most African countries. Rent is rapidly rising, right? Rapidly rising on a very, big step. Somebody who is paying 500,000, for example, for rent a few years ago, today my person might be paying 1.5 or even more for a similar property. So rent is rising very quickly. The truth is, as inflation is biting hard, the landlords are adjusting their rents. They're adjusting to the inflation. Everybody actually is adjusting to the inflation, right? But meanwhile, for a lot of people, their income is not really being adjusted in that manner. All right. So you protect yourself against the rising costs, rising housing costs when you own your home. Because a homeowner who bought a house, let's say years earlier, might still be living in the same house without facing those increases. You're living in your house, you're not bothered whether rent is increasing, rent is not increasing, right? So that also adds to your financial stability. It also adds to your financial stability. And over a long time, this protection will be worth millions because you would have savings, right? You would have savings from that money that you would have been adding every year to increase your rent and stay where you are. That is money that can be saved and that can be added to your wealth building journey. Number three is what we call first wealth building. See, a lot of people struggle to save and invest consistently. A lot of people struggle with it, right? But owning a home can act as a first saving mechanism for you, right? What do I mean? You used to pay a certain amount of money every month, right, for your house, and then you now own your house. Now, that money you were paying as rent, you can easily move that money and start using it for investment purposes, right? So you can start using it for investment purposes. So you tell yourself, okay, now I have my house, but I used to pay 5 million every month. That 5 million becomes something that every year you consistently put it in an investment. You can even start putting it towards another house for business, for as an investment, or any other form of investment, right? So each payment, or let's say that you even decide that you're not buying out the house outright. Let's say you're even taking it through mortgage. Each payment you make gradually increases your ownership of the property. And years later, you're going to own a valuable asset that can also be passed to your future generations. So already you've started giving yourself, your children rather, a head start. And here's the thing again about owning a home, right? And first wealth building. When you achieve it once, you want more. If you can build one, then you've told yourself, really, I can own a home, then I can own more. I can make it happen again and again. And that's how you become someone who is spiraled into not just owning a home, but having more and more and more properties. And that's you building also for your future generation. Number four. Number four is emotional security. That's number four. See, there's a peace that comes from knowing that nobody is going to ask me to leave at some point. There's a peace that comes from knowing that nobody is going to just increase your rent and spoil your whole plans and distort your budget for the month or for the year. There's a peace of mind that comes with it, right? There's a peace of mind that comes from knowing that I own this place. Trust me, the emotional benefit is also real. It is very real. And you can't ignore the emotional benefit. There are so many people that rent distorts their whole mindset. It distorts their whole mindset. Once you just think about the fact that rent is going to come, it destabilizes them, right? It destabilizes them. So it's a thing. The emotional security is a thing. Now, let's make a case for renting. Renting also has genuine advantages. Number one, number one advantage of rent is flexibility, right? You can relocate more easily when you're renting. Let's say you're relocating for career opportunities, for business opportunities, you're relocating for family reasons, lifestyle, different reasons. So somebody who is renting can easily adapt faster than somebody who owns a home. And because most times when you own a home, there's this sentimental attachment to the home. Most homeowners don't find it difficult to, because someone can also decide that, you know what, okay, if I'm going to have to relocate, then I can move, and I can move and rent out my place. But some people have sentimental attachment to that house they've lived in for a while, that they even find it very difficult. So they find it difficult to move. So anything comes up that has to do with relocation, they find it very difficult because they have some form of emotional attachment to their home, right? Tony George, I see you, right? They have this sentimental attachment to the home they have already. All right. But if you don't, flexibility won't be a problem if you own a home, right? Because you can also decide that, you know what, I'm moving, I rent out the place I own, and the money that I get from what I own will pay for the place I'll rent. So in that case, owning a home becomes a win-win, right? So renting, flexibility, number one. Number two is lower upfront costs when you're renting. Lower upfront costs. You know, sometimes buying a home requires a lot of deposits, requires legal fees, documentation costs. If you've decided that you want to build, furnishing, maintenance on a home can be a real thing, trust me. Right? Maintenance expenses. But renting requires far less upfront capital than owning a home. All right. So that's number two. Number three is you have more capital available for investing. Right? So money that would have gone into purchasing a whole house, you can just go and invest it somewhere. So let's say you would have, don't worry, we're going to look at these things from all sides. So let's say money that you should have used to, let's say you have 100 million and rent is, let's say, 10 million. You rent 10 million and you invest 90 million, right? Well, in a way, this can be beneficial. In a way, it can be beneficial depending on how you look at it. But there's a part that a lot of people ignore. And even financial experts, when they're trying to advise people, there's a part of rent people ignore. Now, I want to talk about certain disadvantages. There's the part of rent people ignore. And that is the part of rent where rent becomes a wealth destroyer, right? And this is where this conversation gets even more interesting. A lot of people say renting is better because you can invest the difference, because that's the point I was just talking about, right? Because, oh, if you have 100, then you can invest the remaining and rent with a little. But this is only true. This can only become true if two conditions exist. One, that the rent is reasonable. And two, you can actually invest the difference. Unfortunately, many people don't do neither. Right? See, high rent can destroy wealth building. Imagine somebody who is earning 500,000 monthly. If rent consumes 40, 50, 60% of the person's income, what's remaining? What is left for investing? What is left for emergency savings? What is left for retirement planning? What is left for business capital? What is left for the children's education? So rent becomes advantageous if you see that you are in a place where it is cheap to rent relative to what you earn. Then that's okay. That's okay. Right? But if the rent is expensive, then you're the one who is actually losing more. You're the one who is losing more. See, across a lot of cities in this Africa, right? Housing costs have become so high that people spend enormous portions of their income on rent every year. Some people spend most of their income on rent. That's the truth. They spend most of their income just go to rent. If you ask a typical person who lives in Abuja, what is your biggest expense? They'll tell you it's their rent. Especially if you want to live within the city center. And when that happens, when rent becomes your biggest expense, right? Then rent stops being a housing expense and it becomes a wealth building obstacle for you. Because it becomes a major obstacle for you preventing you from going on to build wealth because most of your money is going into it, right? Most of your money is going into it. And also, there's a hidden cost of lifetime renting that people really do not see. There's a hidden cost people don't look at. People really do not pay attention to. Now, I'll give you two scenarios, right? Imagine person A, for example, pays rent for 30 years. 30 years. And each year the rent is increasing. The rent increases almost every year. Now, every renewal will require additional fees. Increased rent comes with every renewal. For some people, once they increase that rent, they move to a new place, right? And when they move to a new place, they incur more charges, agency fees, legal fees, caution fees, moving expenses again, and all that. Now, when you look at it, after 3 decades, they might have spent tens of millions of naira with nothing tangible to actually show for it. Now, let's give another scenario with a person B, bought a modest home, right? Then after like 20, 30 years, let's even assume that the person goes through mortgage to get this home. After like 20, 30 years, the mortgage is gone, the house is fully paid for. The person that owns the house. Right? Now, this property along the years must have also appreciated significantly. Now, it becomes an asset at that point. It becomes an asset. An asset that can even be given to the future generation. Now, let's come back again to buying a home. Because saying this now, somebody will say, okay, then it's okay now. Let's go on and just buy a home. Right? Yes, thank you. Rent these days are not cheap. They're not cheap at all. Right? Especially in certain cities, like the Abuja where I live in. Honestly, it can be outrageous, paying rent sometimes. But somebody will say, okay, having heard all this, that means rent is just the only way forward. Let's just build. But when you're building, you need to be cautious. When you're owning a home, you also need to be cautious. See, when you look at the life of the wealthy, they don't buy homes just because they're emotionally attached. They're emotionally attached to bricks and cement, right? So they buy because they understand one important principle. And that principle is control your largest expenses. So most times people buy homes for the wrong reasons. People want to own homes for the wrong reasons. People want to own homes just because they want to own a home, right? They're not even looking at, okay, is it cheaper to own a home or to rent at this point? They're not looking at any other thing. The only thing they're looking at is, I want to be a homeowner, right? Vibes. So one important principle you must look at is controlling your largest expense. If your largest expense is rent, and if you can bring it under control, then you have won. And renting, housing is usually one of the biggest expenses that people face, if we're going to tell ourselves the truth. Right? For some people, they don't do any bulk investment every year, but every year you put in bulk money for, especially part of the Nigeria where people pay rent yearly. They put that bulk, their rent is the only bulk money that leaves their hand. So it becomes a problem. And the earlier it becomes manageable, the more money you have available. Imagine that bulk money that goes out every year can go in for investing, can go in for business ownership, can go in for retirement planning, can become a means that you start building wealth transfer even to your next generation. But like I said earlier, there's also some danger that is attached to buying a house. And that danger is buying a house that is too big. And that's where people make mistakes also. Right? So people correctly identify that home ownership can build wealth. But people can also mistakenly buy a home that can destroy their cash flow. A home that has a lot of maintenance costs. Most times, some people, when you look at some people, like for example, Richard Foscone, right? Like we read in the book, in the Money Click, we read about Richard Foscone in The Psychology of Money. Richard Foscone bought a home, but that home became a problem for him. The home had how many elevators in it? the maintenance for the home was too much. He bought a home that was too big for him to maintain, right? So if you also decide that you want to own your home, you need to be cautious about the size of the house that you're getting. If not, it can become a stress, can become stress for you along the line. Can become stress. That house can be a source of draining of drain for your cash flow. All right? It can be a source of drain for your cash flow. It can also be a source of drain for your cash flow when you go and take up an enormous house that is too big, that comes with a lot of mortgage. You can have too much mortgage stress, can be a problem too. Maintenance stress, debt stress. It can also affect your emotional stability as well, right? The aim of a house is to support your wealth building process, not to replace it. The house does not replace your wealth building, it supports it. So you're not going to carry on a house that your life will become worse even before you had the house. So you need to count the costs, right? You need to count the costs. So a lot of people follow a very balanced approach when they're making decisions like this, right? So they seek a home they can afford comfortably, not the biggest home, not the most impressive, right? Not the one designed to impress relatives. They get a house that they can comfortably manage. They can comfortably manage. All right. For some also that also want to rent, if you decide to, you ensure that when you're renting, that it is within the space of your finances where you'd have more for you to invest. If you're renting and money is taking your most biggest cost you have is your rent, then it means that that rental has become a blockage for your wealth building. All right. So we need to understand one thing. We need to understand that the whole aim is for us to be able to build wealth. Which one becomes more advantageous on our journey for wealth building? Remember, a home will give you shelter, but investment will provide you income. So your home does not automatically become your investment. So you need both a home and an investment. So if you decide you want to buy, don't now buy a house that the maintenance cost alone would prevent you still from investing. Then it defeats the whole aim. The whole aim is for the house to take away rent from you. Is the house to give you stability. Is the house to put you on the path where you can comfortably start having extra money to invest. All right. So a lot of people are trapped within these two difficult choices because yet it's becoming rent is becoming very expensive increasingly, and yet also properties are also rising. Property prices are rising on the increase. So it means the decision should not be rent forever or buy at any cost. The better question becomes, how can I gradually move towards ownership without destroying my cash flow? Now, you start thinking of, okay, I think I should buy a land first. I think I should build gradually. Or I think I should purchase a smaller property and start from that, living below my means, increasing income before lifestyle increases. These are things that we need to start looking at. Ownership ultimately is still the best, right? But then, amidst all these things, we need to be more strategic about it, like I've just said. Proverbs 21, verse 20 says that the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Wise stewardship involves long-term thinking, right? So housing decisions should support future financial strength, not merely satisfying present emotions. Similarly, Proverbs 24:27 says, prepare your work outside, get everything ready for yourself in the field, and after that, build your house. The principle is very clear. Build financial capacity first, then take on major obligations very wisely. So the debate is not really rent or own. The real question is which option leaves you financially stronger over the next 10, 20, 30 years? Which one? Which one leaves you financially stronger? Renting can be wise if it gives you that flexibility and allows you to aggressively invest. So it means that if you're going for renting, your rent should be affordable, very affordable. Your rent should not be among your top expenses. Your rent should not be taking 60% of your monthly income, right? If that's the option that you're going to go with, that's the only way that it can give you leverage to support you becoming stronger financially in the next 20, 30 years. So it means that you're going to still have enough after rent to invest and invest aggressively. So I'm saying it again. The real question here is which option leaves you financially stronger over the next 10, 20, 30 years? In most cases, home ownership leaves you stronger. But there are still few cases, few environments where renting will give you that flexibility. Very few, if we're honest to ourselves, right? So, like I said, renting can be wise if it gives you that flexibility and allows you to aggressively invest. But when rent consumes a large portion of your income, year after year, month after month, then it quietly becomes one of the biggest obstacles to your wealth creation. So owning a home can build you long-term wealth. It can build you long-term, provide you with long-term stability, provide you against rising housing costs, right? But also remember, buying too much, buying it too big, more than you can maintain can also cripple your finances, right? So the goal is not simply to own a house. That's not the goal. The goal is not simply to avoid rent. The goal is to build a life where your housing costs are under control, your cash flow remains healthy, you continue investing aggressively, and your wealth is growing consistently, right? Because at the end of the day, the best housing decision is the one that helps you to build wealth, not just the one that gives you an address. So it's all about wealth building. It's all about wealth building. Yes, I see this comment here, which is I like the comment. Surely soon to be empty nesters buying a big house that only two people will live. Exactly. 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 Thank you very much. Exactly. So this is what should guide you, right? So this is where we come to the end of today's session. Um, Let me read some comments. Madam Linda Oko says, even holiday home around the world is also an issue because you have to visit at least once a year. Yes. And you also have to incur costs also from them. Um, Madam Tony just says, buying tires before buying motor. Why stewardship supports long-term thinking? Thank you. Thank you very much. So it's very important that you understand. I'll just Okay, I see this question here. So I hear you say rent should not take up 60% of your monthly income. Is it practicable? Well, yeah, so what I'm trying to say here is if rent is taking up 60% of your monthly income, right? It means that that rent is a major obstacle to your wealth building process. Because imagine every month, 60% of your money goes to rent. Means you're left with 40%. 40% for a lot of other expenses, 40% for school fees, 40% for different things, 40% to maintain your car, 40% to transport yourself, 40% to feed yourself. How much more would you have left? How much more would you have left to put into wealth building? Calculate it in the next 10 years. How would it be? Where would your life be in the next 10 years? So, what I'm ultimately saying is there's a kind of rent you will pay, and you would put yourself in a position where wealth building becomes difficult. And that's when rent becomes dangerous. Because remember, Remember that I said something. I said, which option leaves you financially strong over the next 10 years? And sometimes when it comes to rent too, it can also be that you're just living in a house that you really can't afford. If you're paying that high amount of money for rental. So along the years, your most better plan would become to gradually find your way out of paying that rent, right? That's where ownership becomes advantageous. Now imagine that you're paying 60% of your income to rent. And then in a couple of years, you're able to acquire your own building, right? Your own house, your own small space, and you stop paying that money for rent. Then that money starts going into investing. It becomes an advantage for you. It becomes, a wealth building avenue for you, right? So I don't know if that question is saying whether it is practicable for you not to do that. It is practicable also for you not to do that if that's where this question is coming from, that you should not take 60% of your monthly income for rent. Yes, it means getting a cheaper place to live in, so it's practicable. It is not practicable to build wealth on that trajectory. Yes, it's not practicable that your monthly income 60% is going to pay rent. How much will you have left? How much can you really invest, right? That will just turn you into someone who will be just, every month you just be running a rat race because it will be a catch-up game, you know. So yes, so that's for that. Decision is the one that gives you wealth, not an address. Exactly, it's the one that gives you wealth. The most important thing, the most important thing about your housing decision, like I said, is that your housing costs are under control, right? Is that your cash flow is healthy, is that you're investing, you continue investing aggressively. You need to continue investing, right? Your wealth has to keep growing. That's the whole aim. That's the whole aim. All right. You could decide that you want to get yourself a villa, even as a homeowner, but that villa would ensure that as your money is coming in every month, everything the villa is soaking it up with rent for staff, domestic staff, maintenance, everything. That's also you self-sabotaging yourself. So you must ensure that all these things are in place. You must ensure that your wealth is growing ultimately, no matter the choice that you decide to go with. All right. Okay. Okay. So remember, I want to remind everyone that our healing from financial trauma course is coming up. It's coming up on the it's coming up in August, right? Yes, in August. Remember, this course always usually anchored by myself and our amiable Kotwendi Ologe, who is always a part of this course. So we're looking forward to it on the 3rd to 7th of August. It's a 5 days module course. It's a 5 module course. It's our last 5 days. All right. Remember also we have the how to make money from stocks webinar also coming up again. For those in January cohorts that missed it, I think in March, you can always come back for it again in July. Between 7th and 10th of July, we're going to be taking that course again. Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Sabele. Says there are times and seasons for everything. Live according to where you can afford. Exactly, where you can afford. Just like we always say, take your children to the school you can afford, right? The school you can afford. There are certain people that once they pay their children's school fees every 3 months, they are left with nothing. It simply means you can't afford it. If you have to use everything, almost everything you have to pay for it, you really can't afford it. If you can afford it, you can pay it twice, right? Comfortably, if you can afford it. So if you can afford it, you should have enough left after you buy whatever it is you want to buy. So live where you can afford. We need to always face this reality. We say live below our means, but in reality, is it we really do it? And for us to do it in reality, it means that we need to tell ourselves, okay, at this stage in my life, I can't live here. This is where I can live. I can't pay for a house here. This is where I can pay for a house at this stage in my life. Because of course, rental rents and comes with the environment as well. You're not going to pay for rent for the same space in Ikoyi as you would pay for in let's say somewhere in Surulere, So rent will come with different. You're not going to pay the same rent in Maitama as you would pay, let's say, when you are in Kubwa. So you just need to understand, all of us, we just need to tell ourselves the truth and always bear this question in mind. And that question we should bear in mind is, this decision, is it helping me to build wealth? Right? So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. This is where we come to the end of today's live session. Yes, contentment is a great pain. Thank you so much, Madam Tony George, for like the way you put it. Right? Thank you so much for being here, everyone. We're going to talk more about real estate, properties, rent throughout the month. That's what we're here for in this month, right? So there's more to come. And if you have more questions, especially if you're in the Money Clip program, bring it to the cohorts, and I'll be happy to take them. And I also wish to announce to you. I also wish to announce to you that we're not going to have our session tomorrow. Yes, because of some news that I'm going to be announcing soon. But our session tomorrow, being Thursday, will not hold, and it's for a very good reason. Remember, if it's not important, then nothing can keep me away from being here on a Wednesday and Thursday. But it is very, very important, and I'll be telling you their news later on. But it's a good one. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. My name is Rich Kwame Konyin, and I'm your billionaire coach. Bye bye.